You also, though, in addition to dealing with a management team, would have interactions with some of the people, even in the lowest part, so-called lowest part of the organization.
Yeah.
How did it affect your conversations there?
I think my predecessors in Service Master, Ken Hansen and Ken Westner, were both recruited me to come to the company. And as I came into Service Master, I came as a senior vice president, and they had my duties all laid out for me. The first 8 weeks of my job, I was out in the field doing the service work we did as a company. And little did I realize I didn't even understand what I was going to be asked to do when they said that. It was kind of a shock for me. And Ken Hansen said, "Don't worry about it. You'll be able to come in the evening and do your work as senior vice president." But it was identifying with the people at all levels of our organization. And it was right at that principle of never ask somebody to do something you're not willing to do yourself. And when you actually do the acts of service, you understand some of the opportunities, some of the challenges. For example, I can remember I was working in a hospital one day, and one of the things I realized when I was mopping floors in hospitals as part of the cleaning department, housekeeping department, was that you got rarely called your first name. It was, "Hey, you, come over here." Anyway, I was preparing to mop a hallway, and you had to put signs that's water and so for your mom. I got all my signs up. I'm mopping the floor. And a lady stops. She's walking by on the other side. She stops and looks at me, and she says, "Aren't you Bill Pollard?" And I looked at her. I didn't recognize her right away. And I said, "Yes, I am." And then she identified who she was, and she was a shirt-tail relative of my wife. And then she leaned over a little closer to my ear, and she said, "Is everything all right at home?" And I said, "No, I have a new job." And then we laughed a little and talked about it. But it's again the perception. She wondered, "Are you no longer a lawyer?" Or she didn't know I started with Service Master. But in any event, so there's all those emotions and feelings as part of the job. And one of the things after that experience that I decided to do with the help of my senior team was to institute a process where everybody in Service Master, once a year, did our service work. Whether you're in the accounting department, the IT department, whether you're in operations, and it was a different service each year. And as I went out, I learned, every time I learned something about what we were asking, or imposing, or supporting, or not supporting for that worker to get the job done.
How did that affect the attitude of the workers when they saw you doing this?
Well, sometimes, they usually were surprised. What are you doing out here? And I can remember one time when I did this for a week in a large manufacturing plant in Southern California, where we were having all kinds of problems implementing our services and getting productivity. We had to deal with a big union. And so one of the things I learned that week was that most of our workers in that plant, we paid every 2 weeks. Most of our workers didn't have a checking account. When they got their check, they went to a currency exchange and got ripped off for so much, so that was another deduction from their pay. A lot of them spent their grocery money at the front end of the 2-week period and all of it. So near the end of the period, we'd much better off if we could have paid them daily in cash. And we worked out a plan where we ultimately did that. So it was like a debit card that they had. It was just realizing the culture, the differences in some of the cultures they were coming around too. And the workplace was really the most stable element of their life, many of them. So when you introduce change in the workplace, it was double traumatic because of all of the change and difficulties that were going on in their home lives.
Very challenging.